We're in Aghalloher Cemetery, and the history of Aghalloher Cemetery goes back to the mid 500s when St. Ronan came to the area and was responsible for, along with some local people, the selection of this area here to build his church. It was decided after the local residents that were here and the local people that were in the parish at the time that there was too much of a dispute with regard to where it was going to be built. So it was decided on the cast of a stone from a slingshot, and where it landed, the church was built, and this is the site, and it was named Aghalloher, or Aghalloher, and the meaning of that, the translation of that, is the field of the shot. So they set about building the ancient church here, and in and around the church for many, many, many years people resided. They built houses in the locality here of the church, and for many generations people lived here, not in the town of Lisnaskea, but in the township or the village of Aghalloher. It was a place where people came for retreat. People who came here came for to do business with regard to the locals, the men who had trades and occupations that were in the area as well. You were 1 Irish mile from the shores of Lough Erne, and Lough Erne was the main highway into Ulster, and it was also the sites of many established churches and monasteries during that same period in time. Here was St. Ronan. Ronan was a very well-known man and very well respected within the historical history of this area, and came from a very respectable and very well-known family at that time. And he set up his church on this site, and they also would have had many other young men who came and became monks through the teachings of St. Ronan here. The history on the site tells us that this is possibly here where he's actually buried, and there are other bishops down through the years from other families who became involved within the church, particularly the Maguires in the later period, in the 1300s and right into the 1400s afterwards, where they were in control in this parish. They were the men who were the kings of the parish, and many of the children of those men who were the chieftains in the area became priests and bishops within this parish area. It brings us right through onto the period really of the plantation of Ulster in the 1600s, when the English came here and they attacked the area. They actually destroyed all the cottages and houses that were in the old village at that time of Aghalloher, completely destroyed them. And the people in this area took sanctuary in the old church. Over 300 people were said to have went into it at the start. And in 1607, when O'Sullivan Burgh was doing his survey after the start of the plantation of Ulster, O'Sullivan Burgh came here and discovered that there was a sight to behold inside the church where only 30 people remained from the initial 300, and these people were starving, and O'Burgh and his group were giving them, O'Sullivan, were given money, and they said money was no good to them, that they wanted food, that they were actually starving, and that initially that there was 300 there, but now they'd gone to the group that was there, which was only 30. which leaves us to believe that they were there for a good few years, 3 or 4 years at that stage. That was a disastrous time for the local people at that time. The English who were here at the time, the soldiers were marauding all around here. They never came into the church. They never attacked anybody within the church grounds. Sanctuary was given to those people, but they were in a bad way. The crops was being destroyed in the local area, so there was no food for these people to eat, and they were in a bad way. The links that bring you in from that plantation time brings you into the period when lots of people came here from the border regions of Scotland and England, and those family names that came in during that plantation period still remain here in the local parish today. Many of the names are known to us: Armstrongs, Johnsons, Fosters, Grahams, Rennocks, many other names that as I say, number one, are buried here in the old cemetery, and it's a mixed cemetery. Both sections of the community are here, and the graveyard is separated by a path that goes around down the centre of it, but actually this side here is more of the local Irish names here. So in those names you have Maguire, you have McElroy, you have many names that still remain within the parish here. Cosgrove, Teague, you have just thinking here, Murphy's just buried here beside us as well, and loads of other names that are still within the parish. Some of the ancient stones, headstones, are no longer visible, or there were marker stones in those days. There was no carving in them, but there is beautiful carved stones here, especially with the skull and crossbones, and with the timer, and with the coffin on them as well. And you'll see those as we go around the graveyard. You'll see those that have been here, and those are really local craftsmen who had brilliant skills, and a lot of those were said to come here during the plantation period, but there are many old ancient Irish ones here as well that were beautifully carved as well. There is some of the bishops. Maguires are buried here. There is also Bishop Johnson down here as well from the Church of Ireland, who was here in the 1660s. So those stones are from that period in time. The ones that are still visible here now are really from the 1700s, but if you take the ages of the people that are in those graves, they're people who lived here during the 1600s. So 1700s and 1800s, right into the 1900s, and we have some that are very recent here. There's a recent burial over here. You can only do that in an ancient graveyard if you can prove that it was your family circle that was here. The church, or the ancient church that was here, survived for many years, and then there were improvements made during the time of the Maguires when it was redone up again and a new roof was fitted in the 1400s. And there was also sacrileges committed. For instance, one of the Maguires was actually murdered on the altar of the ancient church, and his family circle then moved on and took control of the Maguire organisation within Fermanagh, and those things were sad at the time, and it destroyed the church with regard to the local people. So when the newer church was built at a later stage, there was also a murder at the gates as well, where again a family feud ensued, and one of the Maguires were murdered as you come through the gate of the cemetery and to the church. After plantation, it was used by the Balfours for a short period of time until they actually built their own church closer to Castle Balfour here in Lisnaskea. Inside the crypt here, there are members of the Balfour family and connections to their family circle buried inside that crypt in tombs. In the time that O'Sullivan Barrow here, then he seen that the church was still established at that stage. It was still in fairly good repair. It hadn't been damaged, but it lasted for quite a number of years after that. But there has been various different additions to the church down through the years. We can see various different parts of the church that are almost completely destroyed. The stone from the church itself was brought in and used for the building of the church in Lisnaskea. It also was used for the building of the arch at the gateway here as well.